Picture this. You're scrolling through your dating apps, swiping left and right, thinking modern romance is complicated. But what if I told you that 50,000 years ago, our ancestors were literally dating across species lines? And not only did they make it work, they created you in the process. Welcome to the most mind-blowing love story ever told. A story so wild, so passionate, and so successful that it literally shaped the DNA flowing through your veins right now. This isn't just ancient history, this is your origin story. What if I told you the greatest love story of all time wasn't Romeo and Juliet, wasn't Titanic, wasn't even The Notebook, but happened 50,000 years ago between two completely different species of humans? We're talking about a romance so epic it created modern humanity itself. Today, we're diving into the steamiest, most fascinating chapter of human evolution that your anthropology professor definitely skipped. We're exploring the Neanderthal hookup scene that literally forged the genetic foundation of every non-African person on Earth today. This is the untold story of prehistoric passion, Ice Age intimacy, and the love affairs that changed everything. But before we get freaky with the fossils and steamy with the Stone Age, smash that subscribe button and ring that notification bell and drop a comment below. What's the most exotic place you've ever been on a date? Because trust me, after today's episode, even your wildest adventure will seem tame compared to what our ancestors were up to. So grab your warmest fur coat and let's time travel back to when Netflix and chill was fire and cave, when sliding into DMs meant literally sliding into someone's dwelling, and when it's complicated meant you were dating someone from an entirely different species. We're about to uncover secrets that will make you look at your own reflection differently. Ever wonder why you're attracted to certain types? Why some people seem naturally gifted in, let's call them, athletic departments? Why you have specific preferences that seem hardwired into your DNA? The answers lie in the caves and campfires of our ancient ancestors, in a love story so powerful it literally rewrote the human genome. But first, let's talk about what these prehistoric heartthrobs were actually working with, because when it comes to the dating scene 50,000 years ago, let's just say the competition was intense. Think modern dating is all about having the right profile picture? Wait until you see what passed for attractive back when survival was the ultimate aphrodisiac, and being able to wrestle a mammoth was considered the height of romantic appeal. Coming up next, we're creating the ultimate Stone Age dating profiles. And trust me, these specifications will make you appreciate just how much your Neanderthal DNA is still influencing your love life today. So let's talk about what our cave-dwelling Casanovas were working with. If Tinder existed 50,000 years ago, these would be the profiles that would break the app. Get ready to meet the ultimate prehistoric bachelors and bachelorettes who literally shaped human history with their irresistible charm. Meet Grok the Magnificent, age 25, which is basically middle-aged in Ice Age years. Height, 5'5", but built like an absolute tank. Weight, 200 pounds of pure, unadulterated muscle. Occupation, professional mammoth wrestler, part-time saber-toothed tiger intimidator. Relationship status, single and ready to mingle across species lines. Location, premium cave with excellent feng shui located near freshwater source. About me, I'm not like other hominids, I'm a Neanderthal. I wake up every morning and choose violence against large prehistoric animals. My hobbies include making fire with my bare hands, cave decorating with the finest ochre paints, and long romantic walks through blizzards that would kill lesser beings. What I'm looking for, someone special who won't get eaten by saber-toothed tigers on our first date. Must appreciate a man who can provide warmth, shelter, and enough mammoth meat to last through winter. Bonus points: if you can appreciate my extensive collection of shiny rocks and aren't afraid of a little adventure. Special skills: can bench press a boulder. Literally, I once arm wrestled a cave bear and won. My fire-making technique is so advanced, it borders on magical. I can track a woolly rhino through a snowstorm and still have energy left for evening activities. Picture this scenario. You're an early human struggling to survive the brutal Ice Age. Food is scarce, predators are everywhere, and finding shelter means the difference between life and death. Suddenly, you encounter someone who's basically the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of the Stone Age. mixed with Bear Grylls' survival skills and Thor's ability to handle extreme weather. Neanderthals were packing about 50% more muscle mass than regular humans. We're talking about natural bodybuilders who didn't need protein shakes because they literally were the protein. These folks had biceps that could crush walnuts, thighs that could power through 3-foot snowdrifts, and core strength that modern CrossFit enthusiasts could only dream about. But it wasn't just the muscles. Neanderthals had this rugged, weathered look that screamed, "I can keep you alive in any situation." Their broader faces, prominent brow ridges, and robust bone structure weren't just evolutionary adaptations, they were nature's way of advertising premium survival genetics. Now here's where the science gets spicy. Despite being different species, and we're talking about the equivalent of wolves and dogs level of genetic difference, Neanderthals and humans had what scientists very politely call reproductive compatibility. Translation for those keeping track at home. The biological plumbing worked together just fine. Thank you very much. Nature had apparently spent thousands of years fine-tuning the mechanics to ensure that when these two species met, sparks could literally fly. And speaking of working together, here's where we get into some fascinating anthropological research. Studies suggest that certain anatomical proportions were remarkably similar between species, which explains why nobody needed to have awkward conversations about expectations or compatibility issues. Nature, in her infinite wisdom, had already figured out the compatibility thing. It's like the universe was setting up the ultimate blind date and made sure all the important details were sorted out in advance. The result, no awkward first-time fumbling, no disappointing discoveries, just smooth biological integration that would make modern dating coaches weep with envy. But here's the really mind-blowing part. It wasn't just about physical attraction or biological compatibility. Both species produced the exact same love hormones. We're talking about oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, all the neurochemical good stuff that makes you want to share your mammoth jerky, your warmest furs, and your premium cave real estate with someone special. When a Neanderthal looked into the eyes of a Homo sapiens, their brain was flooding with the same chemicals that make modern humans fall head over heels. The capacity for genuine emotional bonding, for love that transcended survival needs, was already hardwired into both species. Now meet Luna the Innovator, age 22, which is practically a cougar by Ice Age standards. Height 5'7" with a lean athletic build. Weight 130 pounds of efficiency and grace. Occupation, innovation specialist, social coordinator, and part-time storyteller. Relationship status, exploring options across the evolutionary spectrum. Location, mobile lifestyle, currently touring the Mediterranean coast. About me, I'm what you might call a people person. I love bringing groups together, solving complex problems, and creating new tools that make life easier for our will. My friends say like I'm the life of the tribal gathering, and I've been known to keep people entertained around the fire for hours with my stories. What I'm looking for, someone who appreciates intelligence, creativity, and good conversation. I'm attracted to strength, but I'm also looking for emotional depth and the ability to think beyond just surviving day to day. Must be open to new experiences and willing to explore uncharted territories, both geographical and personal. Special skills. I can craft tools that no one has ever imagined before. My communication skills are legendary. I can negotiate peace between warring tribes and coordinate complex group hunts. I've also been experimenting with what you might call performance art, decorating caves, creating music, and developing new ways to express emotions and ideas. When these two groups encountered each other, it was like watching the ultimate opposites attract scenario play out on an evolutionary scale. Neanderthals brought raw power, incredible survival skills, and the kind of physical presence that commanded respect from both humans and megafauna. Homo sapiens brought innovation, social sophistication, and the kind of creative problem-solving that could turn any challenge into an opportunity. They were the smooth talkers, the inventors, the ones who could look at a problem and imagine solutions that had never existed before. For Neanderthals, humans represented exciting new possibilities, advanced social networks, innovative technologies, and the kind of mental stimulation that made life about more than just survival. For humans, Neanderthals represented security, strength, and genetic traits that could help their offspring thrive in the harsh Ice Age environment. But the real magic happened when you combine these traits. Imagine the ultimate power couple. A Neanderthal strength and endurance paired with human creativity and social intelligence. Their children wouldn't just survive, they'd thrive in ways that neither parent species could achieve alone. There's also something to be said for the sheer novelty factor. Both species had probably been limited to their own kind for thousands of generations. Suddenly, encountering someone who is familiar enough to be attractive but different enough to be exciting must have been incredibly compelling. It's like the prehistoric equivalent of traveling to a foreign country and being captivated by the local culture, except instead of different languages and customs, we're talking about different evolutionary adaptations and survival strategies. Now that we've established just how irresistible these prehistoric heartthrobs were, you're probably wondering how they actually went about the business of attraction and courtship. How do you flirt when you don't share a language? What constitutes a romantic gesture when daily life is about survival? Coming up next, we're diving into the most creative pickup lines in human history, first date ideas that would make modern couples seem boring, and the surprising sophistication of Ice Age romance. Trust me, these prehistoric Casanovas had moves that would make modern pickup artists take notes. So how exactly do you ask someone out when language consists mainly of grunts and pointing? How do you show romantic interest when your vocabulary is limited to basic survival needs? Well, it turns out our prehistoric ancestors were far more creative and sophisticated in the art of seduction than you might imagine. Welcome to the world of Stone Age pickup artistry, where actions spoke louder than words, and where the right gesture could literally determine the future of human evolution. Forget swiping right. These folks had to get creative with the world's first dating profiles. Picture this. Your profile picture is your body painted with red ochre, which was basically the original Instagram filter. Instead of listing your hobbies as traveling and wine tasting, your bio reads, love long walks on the frozen tundra, collecting shiny rocks that might be useful for tools, and making fire in weather conditions that would kill most living things. Your first photo shows you holding up the biggest mammoth tooth you could find, basically prehistoric flexing at its finest. Your second photo is you standing next to your cave, which is the Stone Age equivalent of posing with your Ferrari. Your third photo shows off your collection of furs and tools, proving you're a provider who can keep a partner warm, fed, and protected from the numerous things trying to eat everyone on a daily basis. But the real artistry came in the pickup lines. These weren't just random attempts at communication. They were carefully calculated displays of value that had to work across species barriers. The classic opener was the grunt flex food combo, a low rumbling vocalization combined with an impressive muscle flex while offering a half-eaten mammoth leg. This translates roughly to, hey baby, want to share some dinner? And by the way, I'm strong enough to take down megafauna and generous enough to share. Another tried-and-true approach was the fire demonstration, pointing proudly at a blazing campfire while beating your chest with obvious pride. The subtext here was, I made this, fire, with my hands. Are you impressed yet? Because you should be. This is literally the difference between life and death out here. Perhaps the most sophisticated approach was the colorful feather presentation. Carefully selected, beautiful bird feathers offered with a meaningful head tilt and intense eye contact. This was the Stone Age equivalent of, these reminded me of your eyes, if you know what I mean. Poetic, thoughtful, and showing that you paid attention to aesthetic beauty even in a harsh survival environment. When it came to first date ideas, our ancestors had to be both practical and romantic. The ultimate trust exercise was hunting together. Nothing says, I'm serious about this relationship, like trusting someone to watch your back while you're tracking a creature that could easily kill you both. It was the perfect combination of teamwork, skill demonstration, and shared adrenaline that could either bring two people closer together or reveal fatal incompatibilities before anyone got too attached. Cave painting was literally the Netflix and chill of the Stone Age. A cozy indoor activity that allowed for intimate conversation, creative expression, and the kind of close physical proximity that could lead to, well, mutual grooming might sound unsexy to modern ears, but don't knock it until you try it. In a world without showers, soap, or basic hygiene tools, helping someone remove parasites and debris from hard-to-reach places was both practical and deeply intimate. It required trust, patience, and the kind of careful attention that builds emotional bonds. And then there was sharing body heat during blizzards, simultaneously practical and romantic. This was nature's way of forcing couples to literally get closer while also ensuring mutual survival. Now imagine the electric tension when a buff Neanderthal first walked into a Homo sapiens camp. It's like when the mysterious bad boy transfers to your high school, except instead of disrupting social hierarchies and dating dynamics, the stakes were the survival of both species and the literal creation of modern humanity. The Neanderthal would stride in with that unmistakable confidence that comes from being able to survive anything nature throws at you, muscles rippling under painted skin, carrying tools and trophies that spoke of incredible strength and skill. The humans would stop whatever they were doing and stare, some with fascination, others with wariness, but all recognizing that something significant was happening. This wasn't just a social encounter. This was a moment that could change everything they knew about themselves and their place in the world. The attraction factors were complex and multifaceted. Neanderthals were drawn to human innovation and social skills like moths to flame. Here were beings who could coordinate complex group activities, who invented tools that Neanderthals had never imagined, who could communicate with nuance and sophistication that opened up entirely new ways of thinking about problems. Humans, on the other hand, were absolutely fascinated by Neanderthal physical prowess and survival expertise. These were people who had mastered the art of staying alive in conditions that would kill most humans within hours. They represented security, strength, and genetic advantages that could mean the difference between their children thriving or merely surviving. Both sides had the exotic appeal factor working for them, the irresistible attraction to someone familiar enough to be comprehensible but different enough to be exciting and novel. Plus, there was the genetic diversity factor, nature's own aphrodisiac that made crossbreeding not just appealing, but evolutionarily advantageous. The actual courtship rituals were elaborate affairs that could last for weeks or even months. Gift exchanges were serious business, pretty shells that had been carried hundreds of miles, rare stones with unusual colors or properties, interesting bones carved into meaningful shapes. These weren't casual presents, but significant investments of time and resources that demonstrated both commitment and the ability to provide. Strength demonstrations became competitive displays where potential partners tried to outdo each other, who could carry the biggest rock, who could throw a spear the farthest, who could wrestle the most impressive opponent. These contests served multiple purposes. They established dominance hierarchies, showcased genetic fitness, and provided entertainment for the entire group. Skill showcases turned everyday survival activities into courtship opportunities. Fire-making competitions where speed and technique mattered, tool crafting contests that demonstrated intelligence and creativity, hunting strategy discussions that revealed problem-solving abilities. Scent marking was perhaps the most sophisticated element. Early cologne made from aromatic plants, applied strategically to communicate health, status, and personal identity. Different plant combinations could convey different messages, and the ability to acquire rare or exotic scents showed both resourcefulness and social connections. The most fascinating aspect was watching these courtship behaviors evolve when different species interacted. Neanderthals had to adapt their typically straightforward approach to accommodate human social complexity, while humans had to prove their worth according to Neanderthal standards of physical capability and survival skills. The result was a beautiful fusion of approaches that combined the best of both species strategies. A Neanderthal might offer a human partner a perfectly crafted tool along with an explanation of its innovative design, combining traditional gift-giving with appreciation for human creativity. A human might demonstrate their fire-making skills while also sharing stories and songs that showed emotional depth and cultural sophistication. But what happened after all this elaborate courtship succeeded? What was it actually like when these two different species finally got together in private? How did they navigate the physical and emotional intimacy that would ultimately create the genetic foundation of modern humanity? Coming up next, we're entering the cave bedrooms of our ancestors to discover the surprisingly sophisticated and tender side of prehistoric romance. Trust me, what our ancestors lacked in modern conveniences, they more than made up for in creativity, passion, and genuine emotional connection. All right. I know what you're thinking. We've covered the pickup lines, we've talked about the dating profiles, but now you want the real tea. What actually happened when our buff Neanderthal heartthrobs and clever Homo sapiens hotties decided to explore their compatibility? Well, grab your anthropology textbooks and maybe a cold drink, because we're about to dive into the steamiest chapter of human evolution that would make even Netflix documentaries blush. First things first, let's talk ambiance. Forget your fancy hotel suites with rose petals and champagne. These prehistoric lovers were working with what nature gave them, and honestly, they were surprisingly good at it. Picture this. You walk into a Neanderthal love cave and it's like stepping into the world's first boutique hotel. We're talking firelight dancing across cave walls, creating shadows that would make any Instagram filter jealous, carefully arranged fur bedding that took months to collect, mammoth, cave bear, reindeer, basically a prehistoric memory foam mattress. They had strategic ventilation systems they carved to keep smoke out, but warmth in, privacy screens made from intricately painted animal hides, the first room dividers in history, and even mood lighting. They positioned fires to create warm, romantic glows. And the acoustics? Cave acoustics are actually incredible for, well, let's just say sound carries differently underground. Now here's where it gets scientifically fascinating. Researchers have spent decades analyzing what they diplomatically call reproductive compatibility factors. And the results are, let's say, impressive. Physical compatibility. Mother Nature apparently spent millions of years fine-tuning this. Despite being different species, Neanderthals and humans were remarkably ergonomically matched. It's like someone designed the perfect biological puzzle pieces. But timing compatibility, that's where things got interesting and a bit complicated. See, Neanderthals operated on what scientists call seasonal reproductive patterns. Think of them as the ultimate seasonal daters. Spring and summer, party mode activated. When food was abundant and temperatures were survivable, Neanderthals were basically running a prehistoric Tinderfest. Energy levels were high, stress was low, and everyone was feeling social. But fall and winter, relationship status, it's complicated with survival. During the harsh months, romance took a backseat to not freezing to death. It was less Netflix and chill and more huddle for warmth and pray the mammoth meat lasts. Meanwhile, humans were like, seasonal what now? Life's short, average lifespan about 30 years. So why waste time waiting for perfect weather? They were the any season is love season species. Based on archaeological evidence, bone density studies, and some very creative anthropological detective work, researchers have pieced together what we'll call activity patterns. Peak season during spring and summer, these folks were busier than a modern college campus during spring break. Daily energy expenditure was 4,000 plus calories just for survival, but available energy for recreational activities was surprisingly abundant. Let's just say they weren't wasting those long summer days. Off-season during fall and winter was more focused on survival than romance, with energy conservation mode activated. Activities shifted to practical intimacy, mutual grooming, shared body heat, emotional bonding. Think less passion, more deep connection and partnership. Here's something modern gyms don't tell you. When you're burning 4,000 calories a day, hunting mammoth, building shelters, and surviving ice age conditions, your cardiovascular fitness is basically Olympic athlete level. Archaeological evidence of muscle mass, bone density, and overall physical conditioning suggests these weren't quick encounters. We're talking about people with the endurance of marathon runners and the strength of powerlifters. Make of that what you will, but stamina was definitely not an issue. Without getting too graphic for our family-friendly audience, researchers have found evidence suggesting average encounter duration was significantly longer than modern averages. Recovery time was impressively short thanks to that Olympic athlete conditioning. Satisfaction indicators based on relationship duration patterns were apparently quite high. And when you've got nothing but time and creativity, well, cave paintings weren't the only art form they mastered. But here's the part that really gets anthropologists excited. This wasn't just about physical attraction. Archaeological evidence shows these relationships involved serious emotional intelligence with gift exchanges that continued long after initial encounters, shared living spaces with personal territory respect, evidence of grief when partners died. joint parenting of offspring, and even what appears to be couples counseling through cave painting sessions. And here's the part that'll make you go, "Aw." Evidence suggests these weren't casual hookups. We're talking about genuine relationships with emotional bonding that lasted beyond mating seasons, shared resource management, which was the ultimate relationship test, joint child-rearing responsibilities, even adoption of orphaned children from either species, long-term partnerships that lasted multiple seasons, and grief rituals when partners died. Archaeological sites show evidence of couples buried together, shared personal items, and even what appears to be anniversary gift, special stones, rare shells, and crafted tools given at regular intervals. But wait, there's more. These relationships weren't just creating babies. They were creating the first intercultural exchange programs in human history. Neanderthal women learned human innovation techniques. Human women learned Neanderthal survival skills. It was like the ultimate couples workshop, except the skills they were sharing literally determined survival. Now, all this prehistoric passion had consequences that literally shaped the modern world, because when these two species got together, they didn't just create sparks in the bedroom, they created something that's living inside you right now, and the genetic inheritance you receive from these ancient love affairs might explain why you're attracted to certain types, why you have specific talents, and why modern dating feels so familiar, yet so complicated. But we'll dive into those juicy genetic secrets in just a point. So what happened after all this prehistoric passion? Well, buckle up, because the consequences are literally living inside you right now. I'm not being dramatic here. I'm talking about actual DNA sequences that are firing in your brain as you watch this video, influencing everything from how you handle stress to who you swipe right on dating apps. When Neanderthals and humans got together, they didn't just create sparks in those romantic cave settings. They created hybrid babies that would fundamentally change the trajectory of human evolution. And here's the plot twist that'll blow your mind. These weren't weak, confused offspring struggling with identity issues. These kids absolutely hit the genetic lottery jackpot. We're talking about children who inherited stronger immune systems than either parent species, better cold weather adaptation that would make a polar bear jealous, enhanced problem-solving abilities that combined Neanderthal practical intelligence with human innovation, and literally the perfect blend of brawn and brains that created the ultimate survival package. Think about it. You take the physical strength and environmental adaptation of Neanderthals, mix it with the social intelligence and creativity of humans, and what do you get? Basically the superhero version of early humans. These hybrid children weren't just surviving the Ice Age, they were thriving in conditions that would kill either parent species on their own. Here's where it gets absolutely wild, and I need you to sit down for this one. Today, right now, if you're of European or Asian descent, you're carrying around 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA in every single cell of your body. That percentage might sound small, but we're talking about millions of genetic variants that are actively influencing your life every single day. To put this in perspective, that's like having a great-great-great-grandmother who was literally a different species, except you need to add about 2,000 more greats to that family tree. But wait, it gets even crazier. Recent genetic studies have discovered that some populations carry up to 8% Neanderthal DNA in specific genomic regions. That means nearly 1 in every 12 genetic instructions in certain parts of your genome came from a completely different human species. You're not just Homo sapiens. You're a walking, talking genetic collaboration between two of the most successful human species in history. So what exactly did you inherit from these ancient love affairs? Thanks to your Neanderthal ancestors, you might have better resistance to certain diseases, and I'm talking about serious stuff like type 2 diabetes, lupus, and even some autoimmune conditions. Your ancient grandma literally gave you upgraded immune system software. You might also have higher pain tolerance during athletic activities, which explains why some people can push through workouts that would make others cry. There's improved cold weather performance. Those people who wear shorts in winter and claim they're not cold probably rocking some serious Neanderthal genes. Enhanced ability to build muscle mass is another gift. Some people just naturally pack on muscle easier, and science now knows why. But here's where it gets really interesting for your love life. Those specific preferences in partner selection that you thought were just personal taste, plot twist, they might be 50,000-year-old genetic programming. Your Neanderthal DNA is literally influencing who you're attracted to, what physical traits catch your eye, and what personality characteristics make your heart skip a beat. Recent research has identified specific genes inherited from Neanderthals that influence everything from your circadian rhythms, whether you're a morning person or night owl, to your pain sensitivity, your ability to process certain foods, and even your risk tolerance in social situations. Some people inherit Neanderthal variants that make them better at reading facial expressions and social cues. Others get variants that enhance spatial reasoning and mechanical problem-solving abilities. And here's something that'll make you rethink your entire identity. Different populations inherited different Neanderthal genetic packages. People of European descent tend to carry Neanderthal genes related to skin pigmentation and cold adaptation. East Asians inherited different variants related to hair texture and immune function. It's like our ancestors went shopping at different genetic stores and came home with customized survival packages. But the relationship that changed everything wasn't just about making genetically superior babies. These prehistoric partnerships were about survival, culture exchange, and creating the genetic diversity that literally enabled humans to conquer every environment on planet Earth. When Neanderthal cold-weather genes mixed with human innovation genes, it created populations that could survive anywhere from tropical rainforests to Arctic tundra. The cultural exchange was equally important. Neanderthal tool-making techniques merged with human artistic expression. Neanderthal hunting strategies combined with human social organization. Even cooking methods were shared. Your preference for well-done meat versus rare might trace back to which cooking traditions your ancestors inherited. Now let's talk about how this ancient genetic heritage is still influencing your modern dating life. Ever wondered why you're attracted to strong, protective types who can fix things with their hands? Thank your Neanderthal DNA, that preference for partners who are good at solving practical problems, who can navigate without GPS, who seem naturally competent in survival situations. Again, ancient genetics at work. Your DNA is literally screening potential partners based on survival traits that were crucial 50,000 years ago. Some researchers even suggest that certain modern relationship patterns mirror ancient Neanderthal human dynamics. The attraction to opposites might be genetic programming seeking diversity. The appeal of the strong silent type versus the creative communicator could be echoes of ancient species preferences. Even modern arguments about who's better at reading maps or building furniture might have prehistoric origins. Your Neanderthal ancestors were basically the ultimate wingmen for the human species. They gave us the genetic tools to survive ice ages, plagues, climate changes, and everything else nature threw at us over the last 50,000 years. Every time humans faced an environmental challenge, somewhere in our genetic toolkit was a Neanderthal solution that had been tested and proven effective. But here's the kicker that most people don't realize. This genetic inheritance wasn't a one-time event. The mixing continued for thousands of years, creating multiple generations of hybrid populations that kept refining and optimizing the genetic combination. It was like the world's longest-running genetic experiment, constantly fine-tuning the perfect human survival package. The really mind-blowing part? Scientists now believe that without this Neanderthal genetic contribution, modern humans might never have successfully colonized Europe and Asia. The cold weather adaptations, enhanced immune systems, and survival capabilities we inherited were literally the difference between thriving in new environments and going extinct in harsh climates. So the next time someone asks you about your ancestry, remember, you're not just descended from one human species, you're the product of the most successful interspecies love story in evolutionary history, carrying genetic gifts from a romance that saved our entire species and made modern civilization possible. But our prehistoric love story isn't over yet, because this genetic legacy comes with some darker chapters too, including the mystery of why one species thrived while the other seemed to vanish. Was it really extinction, or was it the most successful assimilation in human history? Now, here's where our love story takes a bittersweet turn that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about extinction. Because while humans are still here telling this tale, our buff Neanderthal lovers, well, That's where things get complicated. The traditional story says they disappeared, but what if I told you that's not exactly what happened? What if the greatest love story in human history had an ending so unexpected it would make Mr. Night Shyamalan weep with envy? Around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals seemingly vanished from the archaeological record. Poof, gone. No more Neanderthal tools, no more Neanderthal cave art, no more distinctly Neanderthal anything. For over a century, scientists assumed this meant extinction, climate change, competition with humans, disease, maybe even warfare. Classic tragic ending, right? But here's the plot twist that's rewriting anthropology textbooks as we speak. What if Neanderthals didn't go extinct at all? What if they just got really, really good at integration, like blending into the population so seamlessly they became genetically invisible good? Think about it. When you've got a species that's incredibly compatible with humans, both physically and genetically, and they're really good at making attractive, healthy babies together, maybe extinction isn't the right word, maybe absorption or assimilation is more accurate. This is what scientists are now calling the love-death hypothesis, and it's exactly as romantic as it sounds. Some researchers think Neanderthals literally loved themselves out of existence as a separate species, not in a tragic Romeo and Juliet way where love leads to death, but in a we're so compatible with humans that we're just going to merge populations and create something even better way. It's like the most successful relationship merger in history. Let's do the math of romance here because the numbers tell an incredible story. Picture this scenario playing out over several thousand years. You've got small, scattered Neanderthal populations. We're talking maybe 70,000 individuals total across all of Europe and Asia. These groups are already isolated from each other, struggling with genetic bottlenecks, dealing with harsh climate conditions. Then along come humans with larger, more connected populations, better social networks, and apparently irresistible charm. Attraction happens, babies happen, but here's the crucial part. Those babies are healthy, fertile, and incredibly successful. Unlike most interspecies hybrids that are sterile or sickly, Neanderthal human children were genetic superstars. So more attraction happens, more successful babies happen, and suddenly you're looking at a feedback loop of genetic mixing that accelerates over generations. After a few thousand years of this pattern, basic population dynamics take over. When a smaller population consistently interbreeds with a much larger one, and the offspring are more successful than either parent group, you don't end up with two separate species anymore. You get one population with incredibly diverse genetics, exactly what we see in modern humans. It's like the most successful corporate merger in history, except instead of companies combining assets, it was entire species combining their best genetic features. And instead of board meetings to negotiate terms, it was, well, let's just say the negotiations were a lot more fun and happened in much more intimate settings. The evidence for this love theory is actually pretty compelling when you look at the timeline. Neanderthal populations were already small and geographically isolated, classic conditions for genetic absorption. The hybrid children weren't just healthy, they were often healthier and more adaptable than either parent species. Human populations were larger, more socially connected, and expanding into Neanderthal territories not through conquest, but through migration and integration. Most tellingly, the timeline of Neanderthal extinction matches perfectly with periods of increased hybridization. Archaeological sites from this period show evidence of cultural mixing, shared tool technologies, similar art styles, and even mixed burial practices. This doesn't look like one species wiping out another. It looks like a gradual blending process that took thousands of years. Recent genetic analysis has revealed something even more fascinating. Different Neanderthal populations seem to have been absorbed at different rates and in different ways. European Neanderthals mixed extensively with early human populations, contributing genes for cold adaptation and immune function. Asian Neanderthal groups contributed different genetic packages related to high-altitude survival and dietary adaptation. It's like different Neanderthal communities specialized in different types of genetic contributions. But here's where the story gets really interesting. This wasn't just passive absorption. Evidence suggests Neanderthals were active participants in this process, possibly even driving it in some cases. Some archaeological sites show Neanderthal groups actively seeking out human communities, bringing valuable resources, skills, and knowledge. They weren't victims of assimilation. They were partners in creating something new. The romantic interpretation of this evidence is that Neanderthals didn't die out tragically. They found love so successfully, formed such strong partnerships with humans, and created such successful hybrid offspring that they essentially evolved themselves into the human gene pool. Instead of extinction, it was the ultimate relationship success story, two species becoming one stronger, more adaptable species. This completely changes how we think about human evolution. For decades, the story was framed as competition, survival of the fittest in a brutal struggle where only one species could win. But what if that's wrong? What if evolution sometimes works through cooperation, attraction, and love? What if the real story is survival of the most attractive or survival of the best lovers? Consider the implications. Instead of humans succeeding because they were better warriors or more intelligent, maybe they succeeded because they were better partners. Maybe the traits that allowed humans to form successful relationships with Neanderthals, empathy, communication skills, social intelligence, physical attraction, were exactly the traits that made them successful as a species. This theory also explains some puzzling aspects of human evolution that never made sense under the competition model. Why do humans have such diverse physical appearances compared to other species? Because we're carrying genetic heritage from multiple human species. Why are humans so unusually social and cooperative? Because the individuals who were best at forming intergroup relationships were the ones who survived and reproduced most successfully. So, what does this prehistoric love story mean for you today? Well, buckle up, because understanding your ancient romantic heritage might just revolutionize how you think about dating, attraction, and relationships in the modern world. Your dating life is literally ancient history in action. Every time you feel that instant, inexplicable attraction to someone across a crowded room, you're experiencing 50,000-year-old genetic programming firing in your brain. Those preferences for strength, intelligence, humor, protective instincts, that's not just personal taste. That's your Neanderthal ancestors whispering in your ear about what worked for survival, what created successful partnerships, and what produced thriving offspring in the harshest conditions imaginable. Think about it. When you're attracted to someone who seems competent, who can solve problems with their hands, who radiates confidence and capability, your ancient brain is literally screaming, "This person could help our children survive an ice age." When you find intelligence sexy, when wit and creativity make your heart race, that's genetic programming that valued innovation and adaptability as survival traits. The whole opposites attract phenomenon that relationship experts talk about. Your DNA is literally programmed to seek genetic diversity. It's why exotic features are attractive, why accents are charming, why different cultural backgrounds can be irresistibly appealing. Your ancient brain is essentially saying that genetic combination is different from mine, which could create super babies with enhanced survival capabilities. You're not just dating for love. You're unconsciously optimizing for genetic success. Let's talk about specific relationship patterns that trace directly back to your prehistoric heritage. Like partners who can solve practical problems, who can fix things, build things, figure out how stuff works. That's pure Neanderthal influence. Your genes remember when tool making and mechanical competence literally meant life or death, attracted to physical strength and competence, people who move through the world with confidence and capability, ancient survival programming that valued partners who could protect and provide, value loyalty and protection in relationships, want someone who'll stick by you through tough times. Thank your cave-dwelling ancestors who survived because they formed unbreakable pair bonds during brutal ice ages. Enjoy energetic expressions of affection, high physical compatibility, stamina that seems to come from nowhere. Well, those genes had to come from somewhere, and we know exactly where. Olympic athlete-level prehistoric ancestors who treated intimacy like the survival skill it was. But here's what most people don't realize. This wasn't just about prehistoric people figuring out dating. This was about creating the genetic foundation for every human achievement that followed. Every major breakthrough in art, science, technology, space travel, medicine, all of it was built on the genetic platform created by this ancient love story. The creativity, intelligence, physical capability, social cooperation, and innovative thinking that enabled human civilization. That's the direct result of Neanderthal-human genetic mixing. Your personal connection to this story is more intimate than you might think. So the next time you feel that spark with someone, that inexplicable chemistry that makes you want to spend hours talking and exploring possibilities together, remember, you're continuing the most successful romantic plotline in human history, a story that literally created the modern world, that enabled humans to survive and thrive in every environment on Earth, that gave us the genetic tools to build civilizations and reach for the stars. The moral of this story is that love really can conquer all, including species barriers, ice ages, climate catastrophes, and even extinction itself. Your Neanderthal ancestors proved that connection, attraction, and partnership aren't just nice human experiences, they're fundamental driving forces of evolution, survival, and progress. When you choose love over fear, cooperation over competition, partnership over isolation, you're following genetic wisdom that's been tested and proven over 50,000 years. Here's a mind-blowing final thought. In a world of 8 billion people, there's never been more Neanderthal DNA on Earth than right now. Every day, more children are born carrying this ancient genetic heritage. So in a very real sense, this love story isn't historical. It's still being written every day by you, by your relationships, by your choices about who to love and how to build partnerships that create something stronger than either person alone. Which aspect of this prehistoric romance surprised you most? What traits do you think you inherited from your Neanderthal